Welcome to Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. We are demystifying home ownership 1 week at a time. My name is Robin Flynn, joined as always in studio by Fred Pichette and Martin Spalding of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Hi, Fred.
Good afternoon, Robin.
Hi, Martin.
So, can we assume that spring and summer has arrived?
Summer. We went straight from winter to summer, it seems. The AC was cranking at my house this week. My goodness, it was so hot. I saw the splash pads are on. Kids are jumping around in the water. It's May.
Because I caught a post from LJ's. Now he's out running along the canal, and that's always a sign of spring and summer. And you know what I got to benefit from this week? The smell of fresh cut grass. We'll keep and cut the grass at our condo this week. And I'm like, okay, summer has arrived.
You mentioned him, LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties was running along the canal. Hey, LJ, how's it going?
How's it going? Things are great. How about you?
Pretty good. It's been beautiful this week. We've got rain in the forecast this week, but we need that rain so that everything can grow and we can get beautiful flowers and trees and our gardens up and running. It's planting season. May 2-4 weekend is always the weekend where you can put your vegetables into the garden. So my tomatoes and my peppers are ready to go in. Very, very exciting. It's going to be delicious. Okay, let's start with our trivia question of the week before we dive into what's in the news this week. Our trivia question is brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. If you think you know the answer, 514-790-0800 is the number to text. Include your name, and if we pick your name, if you're the first one through, you'll get cookies from Felix and Norton delivered to your house. Question this week, in Quebec, what is the term for the legal document that outlines condominium rules, fees, and shared responsibilities? 514-790-0800. Text us the answer now and include your name. Lots of stuff in the news this week. I saw this report on CTV News about bidding wars breaking out for rental units in Montreal, kind of similar to what we've been seeing in Toronto for the last few years. I had a friend who moved to Toronto not too long ago, and it took her 6 months to find an apartment because every single apartment she put an application for ended up going for over asking, which is wild to think about. So I'm curious, as we look into this Montreal market, LJ, we're going to hear in a moment from a woman who's struggling to find a new apartment. You know, what should tenants be aware of so, one, they don't get taken advantage of, and two, they actually find somewhere to live because moving day is coming up July 1st.
Moving day is coming up very, very quickly, and obviously that's putting a lot of pressure on tenants out there. I would say that this year, to be honest, we're seeing, at least in our units, a bit more turnover than usual. And I've seen that renters have actually been a little bit more standoffish in the sense that they've been coming to visit and they say, oh, yeah, I have a few more visits lined up for the next 2 weeks, and then I'll make up my mind and go from there. Whereas historically, to be honest, we've seen tenants make up their mind on the spot and say, what do I have to do to get the apartment? And off we go. If you are looking to be as prepared as possible and really present the best application possible, I recommend that you have a letter of employment, you have recent pay stubs, that you have a letter of reference from your current landlords. Ideally, you even have your credit report from Equifax available, ready to be passed on. If you have all these things kind of ready to go and you're on time, you show up presentable, because there's obviously the kind of two sides of this discussion. We have all of the background checks that we do on people, so that's kind of the tangible. And then there's the intangible factor that I always ask our leasing agents. Well, tell me about the person. Were they on time? Did they show up looking good? Do you foresee any issues? Were they polite in their interactions? If you can take care of those little things along the way, it actually goes a lot further than you'd believe, because a lot of the time I ask the leasing agent, like, hey, you know what, the credit's okay, but how were they in person? And if it was a good meeting in person, a lot of times we're willing to kind of move forward with them and take it to the next step.
We didn't know how much more we should offer, because of course we wanted to get the house, but you're not gonna offer twice as much money.
Is it legal to offer more money than is being asked for rent? If the rent is $2,000 and somebody says, I'll pay you $2,500 a month, is that legal, LJ?
Yeah, of course. Anyone can offer anything they want. It's a contract between two parties. So if a tenant wants to offer more money, they're welcome to do so. I would say in Montreal, to be honest, I know the clip says otherwise, but I have not been seeing a ton of people going into overbidding. Even over the last 17 years, I've seen maybe 3 apartments where people have overbid. Now, obviously, there's different apartments where people are paying historically low rent, obviously. And if a unit was only asking $1,000 and the rental value for that unit is $1,800 on the market, then yeah, sure, it's definitely possible that somebody's going to come in and and offer 1,500 or 1,600 because it's still a great deal under market. But if you're looking at prices for market rent, if you will, we're not seeing all of this overbidding happening at market rates.
So I've got a question for LJ. So, because of all this, we've seen a lot of tightening of regulations when it comes to Airbnbs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an Airbnb owner, should you be concerned that you may lose the opportunity to actually do short-term rentals with your property currently?
Yes, in my opinion. I mean, the mayor of Montreal came out a few months ago stating that you'd only be allowed to do Airbnb between the months of, I think it's June to September, right? So there's been so much change in the legislation from a municipal level, from a provincial level, from a federal level, discussing short term rentals that the biggest problem with them as an investment, in my opinion, is the fact that you don't have the control, right? I don't believe with the long-term residential rentals that any day the government's going to come in and say you can no longer rent your property to somebody else. But the short-term rental, we've already seen it significantly because it's taking away housing from your average Montrealer, obviously. And the second Airbnbs are reduced, all of a sudden you're going to have more inventory in the long-term rental market, which is going to help with the housing demand that we've been having over the last couple of years.
Well, also, what I could add to this is it's very hard to finance those property, those Airbnb. And I think landlords sometimes, instead of, looking for a higher return, they should go for a stable return on their property. I think it's a better option because lately, Martin and I, we try hard to refinance a property with an Airbnb, and it was hard, really hard. Bank
So LJ,
wants to stay away.
as an investor, if you're planning to buy something and operate it as an Airbnb, should you also model it out if the restrictions come in and you can no longer do short-term rentals, that you should model it out as a long-term rental property as well?
100%. Because a lot of the time, your short-term rents are typically 2 to 3x what your long-term rent is going to be. So if you're paying a premium to purchase that property, given the short-term rental market effectively, I mean, you have to be prepared for any changes. We've seen that change can happen any day. Ever since COVID, I think that as a society, we're prepared for large changes to happen. The stock market earlier this year, the tariffs earlier this year, we've gone through a couple roller coasters over the last few months and even years. And I think preparation is really the biggest thing that we can do in order to make sure that we're hedging our bets effectively and putting ourselves in the best positions to succeed.
Also in the news this week, fixed rate mortgages. Martin sent us this email a few days ago. Fixed rate mortgages are going up in Canada. Martin, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah. So, it always fixed rates are attached to the bond market. And we've seen the bond market hedging up. And so what's going on is it's pulling fixed rates up. So almost every day this week, we've got a notification from a different lender saying that their fixed rates were going to go up. So to get into details, the Canada's 5-year bond yield has increased by 2.5 to 2.85%. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's just enough to pull fixed rates up. So the real concerns, and there's a new word that's floating around now, is called the fears of stagflation, where high inflation coincides with stagnant economic growth and high unemployment. Also, there's a lot of speculation that foreign investment is going to start to dry up, leading to a decrease in demand for bonds. And so now bonds have to offer higher yields so more people continue to buy those bonds. So again, it's, our friends south of the border that's putting us into uncharted territory, and whereby we've been saying to a lot of people that you should go variable and lock into fixed. But a lot of people are now switching from variable. We just finished financing a property for a client, and they called us this morning to say, listen, I know that I signed for a variable, but I feel safer switching back to a fix. Can you switch it back to a fix? Because I just need that consistency going forward.
If you're not sure if now is the right time to buy your first home, if you are sure, you're ready to rock and roll, give LJ a call, 514-500-4040, 514-500-4040. He'll help you figure it out. Still to come, if you're shopping around for a new mortgage, Fred and Martin will explain why the rate isn't necessarily the most important part. That's coming up after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center.
Why the lowest rate isn't always the best deal. This is your Mortgage Minute. Chasing the lowest mortgage rate can cost you more in the long run. That discount often comes with tight restrictions, such as limited prepayment privileges and huge penalties if you break early. If life changes, like moving or refinancing, you could face thousands in extra costs. Always look beyond the rate. Flexibility, penalty terms, and prepayment options matter just as much. A slightly higher rate with better conditions can save you more in the end. So remember, it's not just about the rate, it's about the right mortgage.
This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin, that's LJ, that's Fred, that's Martin. We are with you until 1 p.m. Martin teed it up for you in his Mortgage Minute, but if you're shopping around for a new mortgage, while the rate may feel like the most important part, it isn't necessarily. Fred, I know you have a lot to say about conditions and prepayment privileges, penalties. There is so much else that you need to consider, right?
Robin, let me just jump in because I hear this 5 times a day. When I'm sitting in the office with Fred, I hear him pick up the phone and he goes, "It's not only about the rate," and boom, he takes off.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because just keep in mind that the biggest complaint in the mortgage industry across the country in Canada is the penalty that Chartered Bank apply to their client when they break their mortgage. And I know I hear it all the time, as Martin says. People says to me, "Oh, but Fred, it doesn't matter for me. I'm not going to break my mortgage." Well, I love to say from your from your mouth to the ear of God, but 7 people out of 10 end up breaking their mortgage. What happened when you break your mortgage? Go back to your contract that you signed in front of a notary, which is the penalties apply. And I hear often also people saying to me that, "Well, but the person at the bank told me that it doesn't matter. It's fine. Come to see me. We'll fix it up." I'm sorry. When you sign a mortgage, you sign a contract and you sign that in front of a notary. And there's no clause stating that, "Oh, if I break my mortgage, we will find a solution." No, you're facing high penalty. Like again, when you look for a mortgage, you don't look strictly for an interest rate. I'll give you the best example right now, quickly. If you have a mortgage of $400,000 on a 25 years amortization period, on let's say a rate of 429, okay, the payment is $2,175 per month. On the other hand, if your interest rate with a different lender is 439, your payment will be $2,198, which is a difference of $22 per month. Now, if you can't afford $22 difference per month, and on one side you're facing very high penalty, and on the other side twice as less of penalty, well, there's a problem there. Like I always says to people, don't look at the rate, look at the strategy, look at the condition. And obviously the best strategy for me will be if you had, let's say, an extra lump sum, an extra payment of $250 per month, if you're capable to, which is not a lot, $250, it's, I know for certain people it is, but it's not that much. You could save up to $40,000 of interest on the lifetime of 25 years of your mortgage. Like again, if you want to save interest, you're not going to do it with the interest rate. You'll do it with a strategy. And this is so important.
Yeah, that strategy you mentioned, prepayment privileges, understanding how much you can prepay. Is it different from lender to lender and mortgage to mortgage, Martin?
Well, every lender has their own set of conditions. So, one thing that Fred didn't mention is that a lot of people don't read anymore. So we'll send them a mortgage commitment, which is a 7-page document, 8-page document, and you should read it from beginning to end because it outlines everything that you are responsible for, and should you ever break your mortgage before the end of the term, what the penalties could potentially look like. The other thing that's in there does it offer you prepayment privileges? So prepayment privileges are lump sum payments that you're allowed to do on the anniversary on a yearly basis of your mortgage. And those could be up to 10, 15, 20%. All lenders offer something different. But those prepayment privileges, when you make that payment, it goes right against the principal. The other prepayment privileges that you may get is the opportunity to make additional monthly payments. So let's say you make a double payment in the month of June. Well, that second payment goes right against the principal. So if you are only looking at rate, yeah, maybe you'll get 5%, 5 basis points, 10 basis points, 15 basis points less on your mortgage. But if all those prepayment privileges and all those conditions are pushed by the wayside for sake of rate, then, as Fred just mentioned, the strategy goes sideways. So what you need to do is you got to read the fine print and you got to go into your mortgage with a strategy. And the best way to shave off years or shave off the amount on your mortgage is by having a strategy and the ability to, if you get a bonus, come into some extra money, you've saved some money somewhere else, is to slam that money against your mortgage. And before you know it, it evaporates.
Question for you. If you come into some extra money, as you said, should you be putting that money against the principal of your mortgage, or should you use it to pay down debts? What's more important?
Well,
I'm debt averse. Go ahead, Fred. Sorry.
well, obviously, if you have credit card debt at 19 or 24%, obviously you should clear those debt first because it's 24% interest rate compound daily, which will end up to cost you a lot. But let's say if you have this $2,000-3,000 of debt and it's manageable and you see yourself paying that off in the next couple months, obviously you can add a little extra lump sum money towards your mortgage, towards the principal of your mortgage to reduce your interest. And this is really the best way to save interest. It's not by dealing the best interest rate possible.
If you are ready to find out more about your lending options, you can get in touch with Fred and Martin directly. You can go to their website at fredandmartin.com. All of their contact info is there. And you can even book a meeting with them individually, directly on their website. Coming up, how to choose which renos and home improvements to make so you can actually add value to your home. That's coming up after the news. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin Flynn with Fred Pichette and Martin Spalding from Fred and Martin Mortgages, LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties. Renos and home improvements. 'Tis the season. I see my neighbor redoing their deck. I see people fixing retaining walls, repaving their driveways. Which renovations offer the best return on investment, however? LJ, let's go through some of these because there are some minor renos you can make that really improve the overall curb appeal of your home and maybe add significant value. And there are some that are probably a waste of money, right?
For sure, 100%.
So what would some of the cheaper options, like I know, for example, like if your house is hot pink before you sell, you probably want to paint it a neutral color for staging purposes, right? And that's an inexpensive way of adding value to your home.
That's 100% the right thing to do, right? So the best return on investment out of anything you can do is a paint job, right? It's not super expensive. You can do it yourself with a little bit of practice, maybe a couple YouTube videos, and neutral walls really allow buyers to focus on the property itself as opposed to all the funky colors that you might have in the property in the different rooms, right? So I've seen lime green, I've seen hot pink, I've seen strong purples, I've seen bloodshot reds, you name it. And all of a sudden that becomes the talking point as we're walking into a room, as opposed to look at the size of this room, look at the dimensions, look at the light that we're getting inside this room, So you want to make sure that you are not detracting the potential buyers from the actual focus, which is the property itself, the intangibles, the size, etc. And strong paint colors immediately detract buyers and change their focus. Ultimately, all of us struggle a little bit with keeping our focus on one thing at a time. So we want to keep them focused on the right task here.
So which renovations do offer the best return on investment? Because obviously people are going to be paying close attention to the kitchens and the bathrooms, right? But those are not cheap renos.
That's exactly why I didn't want to start with those, because in terms of return on investment, it's not a strong return, right? You're going to get back what you put in typically, and sometimes maybe a little bit less, maybe 80% of what you put in, but it might be the difference between your property selling versus not selling, right? And that becomes really more so the conversation. A lot of buyers are looking for turnkey properties. They don't want to deal with renovations. The reality is most people don't have the additional funds to finance an entire renovation. So because of that, you really have to be um, conscientious of this. And if you can prepare your home and basically have a turnkey kitchen, a turnkey bathroom, even if you don't recover 100% of the investment, it very likely is going to be the difference between you selling your property and not selling it, or having to take a major haircut on the sale price in order to entice a buyer to come and visit the property and eventually purchase it.
So, LJ, in your experience, do kitchens and bathrooms sell the property? So, a potential buyer walks into your house and sees a crummy kitchen. Is that a game changer, or can they see past a crummy kitchen? Or if they see a fabulous kitchen, they go, I want this house.
Is it a game changer? Look, a fabulous kitchen is always going to help sell the property 100%. Everybody knows the kitchen is a central living point of any home. It's really almost the heartbeat of the home. So having a beautiful kitchen is super important. Now, that being said, if you don't have the most beautiful kitchen, some buyers are going to be able to see past it and they're going to see the potential. And it also comes down to whether they have the funds to do so or not. And other buyers will be completely turned off by this. So I think earlier you kind of asked, is this the be all end all? It's not the be all end all. I'm a strong believer in the fact that buyers have to walk out of the home with a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling that this is going to be our home. This is where we see ourselves setting down roots and really establishing our family. And this is a combination of things. So the kitchen does play a huge role in there, but so does the location. So does the neighborhood. So does the neighbors. So does a bunch of different things beyond just the kitchen and bathroom. Although I do recommend renovating those 100%, there is more to it.
Is there a cheap way to upgrade your kitchen and bathroom? Like, I'm thinking if somebody's not going to do a full bathroom reno, they could at least replace the caulking in the bathtub or maybe put in at least just a new toilet, something just to give it a bit of a freshen up. Is there return on investment opportunity there?
I think there is return on investment opportunity, but it comes down more so to when we get to an inspection phase on a property, we want to make sure that we're mitigating risks, right? And if we see that the property has been properly taken care of and that the silicone's in good working order and there hasn't been leaks coming through and that the gyprock next to the shower doesn't have mold on it, these are all very positive things, obviously. So having your silicone in good working order showcases the fact that you probably have been a diligent landowner of the property and therefore you've taken care of the property. And it definitely helps reassure buyers that they're buying into a good property that's got good pones, it's been well taken care of. So that's where I see the return coming more so. Do I say just change the toilet, just change this? I mean, it really depends on the bathroom. If your shower and the ceramics around the shower are in terrible shape, then yeah, you should probably contact Bain Magic, have them come by, install a Bain Magic, outfit it onto your shower, and make it look better than it is right now. Do I recommend just changing the whole tub even more so and redoing ceramics? 100%. But it comes down to how budget conscious everybody has to be and what is actually capable for you.
What about finishing a basement? I know myself, I start with the basement at my house, and people were telling me, why did you do the kitchen? Well, I said, well, I love to start from the bottom to the top. Is it adding value?
Finishing a basement definitely adds value. A lot of times you can add an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom. You can add these important pieces to the home because obviously, whenever we're doing comparables for a home or whenever even an appraiser is, they're looking at 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. How many bedrooms does the home have to compare it to other homes of that size and that grandeur? So if you are finishing a basement and you happen to add a bedroom in there or add a bathroom or even just a powder room down there, you are adding value to the home by leaps and miles.
Where's the line between painting doesn't take a permit, but finishing a basement takes a permit? Because I've had a couple friends who own properties and said, I'm going to create a bachelor suite in my basement. And all of a sudden they do the full reno and some inspector comes in and says, hey, no permit, you got to rip that thing out.
So where does the line come down to? Very openly, the line depends on every single municipality. So find out what your municipality requires before you do any sort of work. You should be getting approval from them, and you should actually be getting approval from your bank as well if you have a mortgage. There is fine print on all of your mortgages that states that if you're doing any changes to your property, they should be aware of it because if you're all of a sudden removing a bedroom, for example, that home's not going to be worth what it was worth before. So make sure you're taking care of those steps. Now, if you are just painting, no, you don't require a permit for painting in most of the neighborhoods and municipalities that I've worked with in the past. Though what we usually say is if you are dégarnir les murs. So if you are removing gyprock, if you're removing walls, if you're empty, at that point you need a permit. That's the simplest explanation, if you will, but really make sure you speak to your municipality and find out what they need.
LJ, before we went on the air, you mentioned specifically the importance of renovating while you're still living in the home as opposed to renovating right before you sell the property. Why is that?
I like to tell people to renovate while they're still in the home because it always breaks my heart that somebody's been in the home for 10 years or 15 years and they're getting ready to sell the property because they're ready to change chapters effectively. And they always say, you know what, I've been meaning to redo the bathroom, redo the kitchen for the last 10 years and we just never got around to it because, life happens, this, that, whatever. But we know that to sell it's going to be important, so we're ready to do it. And it breaks my heart because I wish they would have gotten the time and the opportunity to enjoy that new kitchen, new bathroom for the last 10, 15 years, whatever it might be, as opposed to just doing it for the next person. Although it definitely does make financial sense to do it at that point in time. It's always just, enjoy the fruits of your labor. You're going to put in the work, you're going to spend the money. I hope you get to enjoy it as well. So that's why I brought that to your attention earlier.
And I have to say, there's a great program out there. It calls Home Plus Improvement, Purchase Plus Improvement, that you could add your renovation cost to your mortgage. And this is something that we don't use enough, and it could save you thousands of dollars in interest. Actually, a very good product.
So, as the old guy here, I've been a homeowner for 30, 35 years. And what I have done is I've always tried to put aside a little budget for home renovation every year. So that when comes a time where we decide we want to sell our home, there's not some major renovation that we have to do before we can put the property on the market. We constantly upkeep the property year in, year out. And it could be $1,000 a year. It could be $1,500 a year. It could be painting one room or fixing the floors or whatever it may be. But it's constant upkeep so it doesn't catch up to you when it's time to sell.
If you are ready to sell, maybe you want to purchase a multiplex and you want somebody to take care of it for you, let that passive income just roll right in, give the Plex Doctor a call, 514-709-6397. You can also visit the website at plexdr.com. Coming up, our property of the week, plus the answer to our trivia question of the week. We'll find out after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin, that's LJ, that's Fred, that's Martin. We are with you until 1 p.m. We still have to get to the answer of our trivia question of the week, but first, let's take a look at our property of the week. Where are you taking us this week, LJ?
Well, are you looking for the perfect condo with style, space, and unbeatable location? Welcome to 375 Rue Joliette, Unit 302 in the Vieux-Longueuil. This 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit offers a bright open layout, quartz kitchen countertops, 2 balconies with views on Montreal skyline, and 2 indoor garage spots with an EV charger. Enjoy top-tier amenities, a gym, rooftop terrace, hot tub, and garden. Plus, you're steps away from Place Longueuil and just a 10-minute walk to the metro, as well as the Vieux-Longueuil's best shops and restaurant. This unit is listed at $699,000, and this one checks all the boxes. I guarantee it. Stop by our open house today from 2 to 4 p.m. Alexandra will be there to greet you. We're also hosting an open house over in Pointe Claire, so swing by 260 Avenue Hermitage. This unit is listed at $900,000. It's a corner unit townhouse, which features 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a powder room, plus 2 indoor garage spots as well. It's located right across the street from Fairview Shopping Center and just a few minutes away from the upcoming REM station. Nikita will be there from 2 to 4 p.m. to greet you.
You've got your team all over the greater Montreal area today. Absolutely love to see it. The answer to our trivia question, which is brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. Our question this week: in Quebec, what is the term for the legal document that outlines condominium rules, fees, and shared responsibilities?
It was an easy one.
It was an easy one?
Well,
I don't know. I never know if it's easy or hard. You tell
the term is not easy, but I would say
Yeah.
it's an easy question.
The answer is declaration of co-ownership and its amendments thereto, as LJ added. So if you were playing along, that is the answer to our trivia question this week. All right, what did we learn this week? We learned that the rental market can be competitive as we get closer to moving day. I think it's safe to say if you don't have to move July 1st, not a bad idea to stay put. But if you are looking, get in touch with LJ. He can probably help you find something. We also learned that interest rates aren't the most important part of your mortgage. You should pay close attention to those conditions and penalties as well. Fred and Martin can help you figure that out as well. And we also learned that making small improvements to your home and maintaining your home properly can increase its overall property value. That's pretty much it for us for this week. It always goes by so fast. We will be back next Sunday at 12 p.m. right here on CJD 800. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about us and the show, you can visit our website at underoneroofmtl.com. You can also get in touch with LJ, Fred, and Martin individually. LJ, where do people go to get in touch with you?
Check out our website, ljrealties.com, or on all socials with the handle LJ Aguinaga. That's LJAGUINAGA, or LJ Realties. That's with an IES at the end. You can also call or text me at 514-500-4040. And if you're looking to free up some of your time, contact my property management company, Plex Doctor, to take over and give you your time back. You can find us at plexdr.com, or you can call us at 514-709-6397.
Fred, Martin, where do people go to reach you?
Well, it almost sounds much simpler than LJ. It's fredandmartin.com, fredandmartin.com.
And Fred and Martin. I'll go. No, what I had, if you're tired of renting, why don't you get pre-approved? Maybe you're closer than you think to home ownership. Give us a call. We'll be more than happy to try to pre-approve you for your first time purchase.
Never hurts to ask. Worst case, you find out no, you still have work to do. It's not going to cost you anything to get in touch with Fred and Martin, right?
And you'll walk away with a strategy at least.
Yep, exactly. Having a plan in place is helpful. If you missed anything, you can listen to this show in its entirety on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a wonderful Sunday and a great long weekend.